What is up guys, Speed here, and today we're going to be destroying Dota fallacies. Now, before you guys go insane and say, Speed, how could you tell me that this isn't true? That is totally true. Okay, I'm going to be talking about ideas I personally think are completely wrong, that I've gone over in Dota. You can take them as canon, you can take them with a grain of salt, you could do whatever you want. Hear me out. And these are a few things that I think are not necessarily true about Dota, or shouldn't be done in Dota, that people do all the time. Before we jump into the video, I want to let you guys know that you can check out guides just like this one made by top tier pros over at GameLeap.com. We have thousands of guides that can teach you the game of Dota 2 in depth and help you gain MMR much quicker than you usually would. Now let's jump into it. First off is Undying Pause 4. Undying is much better as a Pause 5. Naturally, as a hero, the only thing you need is levels. In fact, the problem with Undying 4 is often that you're going to end up having 2 5s due to the fact that he has no farming ability. Unless you manage to stack camps and use Tombstone to farm, that's all you got. That's it. Your hero doesn't farm. You're better as a lane dominator. And this is the more important aspect. The reason why you want Undying as a 5, I mean, even if he is a 4, the reason why you want Undying in the safe lane is because there's a lot more room to zone. I see people all the time put Undying in the off lane. And half the time in the off lane, if you don't know how to manage lane equilibrium, the lane is going to be directly under the tower, or just outside of it, I should say. And as a result, you can't get any value out of the fact that you are a lane dominator, right? You can't dive as Undying. It just doesn't work, right? You don't have enough armor and enough HP to do that in the early game. So you're putting yourself in a bad spot. You're not enabling the hero's early game potential. Number 2 is you need to gank as a mid laner. Now this one's up for debate. Obviously there's heroes that are super good at ganking. A key gank can turn a game, can turn a lane. You know, there's obviously a lot of value in ganking. But the main point here is the fact that you don't have to gank every single game, right? I think a lot of people, especially mid laners, get flamed, right? You get flamed quite a bit if one of your side lanes is doing bad and you don't rotate. Even if you're crushing your mid lane, you'll get flamed. And a lot of the times it just isn't true. If you're a hero like Viper and you have max corrosive skin in your W, you're not going to be able to rotate and do much, right? Even if you have your ultimate, it's hard to lock anyone down. So you should continue farming, right? Even if your team feels like they need you, it is better for you to communicate to them that you can't gank and you're better off snowballing. In fact, what often happens when a mid laner ganks is that they miss 1 to 2, maybe even 3 creep waves if they die, and then the entire game is just shifted because the enemy mid laner who was against them has farmed every single wave and now has a level or 2 level advantage, as well as gotten half their mid tower. Next up is you can't farm as a support. Now this is one I'm very passionate about. I really think that solo queue supports should be putting a much larger emphasis on farming, and I mean much. Check out your replay. I'm going to ask this for all of you, right? If you want to put in the time, just really see what I mean. See why I think this is so true. Go to your games and do your best to count how many waves don't get farmed. Creep waves don't get farmed, right? It is significant, especially in the dangerous deep lanes that you can actually easily sneak farm in as a 5. And who cares if you get 5-man ganked and you're a pause 5, right? Who cares? You're not feeding. You're going to get a ton of net worth. You're going to actually be able to get something like a Windlace, maybe a 4-staff, a Glimmer, your wards, sentries, smokes, dusts. You do need gold. You need gold, right? So do not feel like you can't take farm. In fact, your carries are always jungling, right? I've heard a lot of supports say this. My carries are jungling. Okay, then go take the lane. It's as simple as that. You should get farm as a support and scale due to the fact that these games always go late. Small items are not worth it. Guys, small items are huge. Small items are everything. Stats are huge. Stats allow you to snowball your game. If you're playing Juggernaut, and I feel like I use Jug as an example a lot, but if you're playing Juggernaut and you have a good laning stage, and you decide to go for power treads straight into Maelstrom, you're going to have somewhat of a lacking in between those items, right? You might have the power treads for the laning stage, but you're going to lack the ability to continue snowballing. You have no stats, you have no magic wands, so you're going to run out of mana. Most likely players that I've seen do this sort of like Maelstrom Rush, or whatever the item is, don't buy clarities or mangoes. They run out of mana, they have no stats, and their lead goes nowhere, right? They win the lane, or maybe they win the lane, and then what ends up happening is they have to jungle because the enemy offlaner just has better items than them, or early game items. Not only that, I want to mention that things like clarities and mangoes are severely underpurchased. If you feel like you never need clarities or you never need mangoes, it's probably because you're not casting your spells enough. I would really pay attention. If you feel like you're always full mana or relatively full mana, and it's not because of like perfect shrine usage, it's probably because you're not either farming enough, casting your spells enough in fights. You know, there's definitely some sort of reason there. You can't pull as a carry. I mean, all I have to say is yes, you can. Like, if your lane's bad, And let's say you are a PA against a Leshrac Lina lane, and you're afraid of getting double stunned. I guess that's kind of a bad example. Let's say Leshrac's Sand King, and you know you're going to get double stunned. Like, it's guaranteed. You're going to walk up, get double stunned, and it's a waste of time. And your support's not willing to pull. Your only option in that case is to pull. If it's your only option, do it. It's sort of that simple. I mean, sometimes you just have no option, and you have to accept the fact that you need the wave back in order to farm. Right? You might miss, 1 or 2, 3, 4 creeps. However, it's much better than either dying or missing 8 creeps because of the fact that you tried to just stay in the lane and get something out of it. Overall, I think core players don't do a lot of things that they could, such as buying wards, dusts, sentries, especially observer wards. If you're a mid lane player and you're roaming, or you're an off lane player and you need a shrine ward because you're split pushing, or whatever the case, just buy the wards. Like, they're 50 gold. It's so cheap and so effective to be able to have multiple heroes who are like in vastly different parts of the map getting wards down, right? It gives you complete global vision if you have an off laner bottom placing down a ward, a safe laner placing a safe lane ward, and then the supports maybe getting down some mid or jungle wards. Next is that you should TP to every fight. You do not have to TP to every fight. If you are ahead as an offlaner, you don't have to TP. Recently, for the main GameLeap website, I went over 2 Snake King Axe replays, and something interesting was that he was ahead. He was around a level 11 when everyone else was max 9. Like, the enemy mid laners were 9. He was 11. And what did he do? He repped on mid. He made a rep on mid play. But then, when things kind of settled and he didn't feel like there was any gank potential, he didn't just run around and TP to every potential engagement. He went and split pushed the bottom lane. And what ended up happening was he got his next item timing from Vanguard Blink at 12 minutes. He was able to get his Blade Mail around the 15, and he continued snowballing, right? A lot of the times what happens with snowballing players is that they feel like they need to consistently push their advantage or else it's going to go away. However, the thing is, also what you can do with an advantage is not only control areas, but just farm faster. You have to understand, it simply works like that. If you have a Kaya on Storm, you're going to farm faster than a Storm with Treads. And even if then their Slark is farming, the Slark that you shut down, he's not going to farm nearly as fast as you because you're already ahead. You can snowball in terms of your farming speed as well. It does not have to be through kills. And I think that's a huge thing for all you core players in particular. Don't TP to every single fight. And often TPing late to fights is the best way to carry your games, as there's a higher chance you're going to get cleanup kills and a lower chance you're going to die. Next one I find very interesting, and it's something I actually punish a lot, and that's Ursa and Monkey King being strong level 1 heroes. There's a complete lacking of Ursa and Monkey King players not understanding that they're actually not that strong at level 1. And a lot of you guys might flip out now. But Jingu Mastery gives you 60 damage. And Ursa, if he hits you 8 times, then he has like, what, plus 64 damage? Yes, obviously. The thing is, most heroes actually have better level 1 spells that actually pump out damage and don't require any build up, right? But any sort of range lane, or double stun lane, can actually easily man up on a hero like Monkey King, and Ursa's consistently gotten nerfed at level 1. The hero might have high movement speed, but his passive really only, it takes a while to stack. It takes like 5 or 6 stacks to really like be noticeable, and Ursa only has 5 armor now. But the more important thing, Monkey King being a 0 armor hero, if you man up on him with 2 heroes, Jingu doesn't do anything level 1. It just doesn't do much. Especially if he's already at 10%, 25% HP, it's not going to turn a fight if you guys are like almost full HP. Trust me. Next time in a game, if you can get your dual lane support or whatever the case is to hit the Ursa with you, you'll notice that trading's really not that bad, especially if they're alone. For the last one of the video, I saved the most important one in my opinion. This is one of the biggest mistakes in solo queue. If you can communicate to your team that you shouldn't feed by doing this, I think you're in a great spot to save some games that will be thrown. And then this Aegis means you go high ground or push a tower. Now, do understand, yes, Aegis is a great indicator that maybe it is your best chance in the game to go high ground. However, if you take an early Aegis, there's a high chance that maybe you don't want to push a tower, right? Let's say you're TA and you don't have your BKB yet, but you're able to sneak an early Roche due to the fact that you have, max meld and maybe a vengeful spirit support, something of that sort. If you don't have your BKB, heroes, let's say they have a Sand King and a Warlock, you still can't teamfight. It's going to be very, very difficult unless your positioning is on point. And the thing is, if you're pushing a tier 2 tower, especially something like mid tier 2 tower, where there's a lot of points for them to enter and gank you from behind, there's a high chance your Aegis is just going to get burned twice. You're going to get burrow struck, you're going to get fatal bonded, and this applies for a lot of heroes, right? There's a lot of heroes that can easily defend a tower. If they have sniper, even if you beat the sniper in lane, he can then fight because he's underneath a tower. There's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't instantly throw away your advantage even when you have Aegis. In fact, what I recommend you do is you use the strength to take over key areas. So in particular, there are hill wards, right? The key high ground hill wards in the enemy jungles, one in both sides. Those are great ward places to use when you have Aegis. Instead of going high ground, throw up a ward and wait for enemies to come out, and you'll notice that more often than not, they do. You can get the pick off and then have a much easier time going high ground with your Aegis. Patience is key. Try to be patient, make the call, maybe even smoke behind the tower, right? Then you can get the tower. However, beelining at towers, awful idea, especially up high ground. There's a few niche heroes that maybe you can do it, but half the time it's just a giga feed play. Alright, but thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you'd like to see more of these in the future, let me know down in the comments below. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in the next video.